Try to have fun in the meantime. Take a walk on the wild side. Let me kiss you hard in the pouring rain. Like your boy's insane. Choose your last words. This is the last time. 'Cause you and I, we were born to die. Lost, but now I'm found. I could see once I was blind. I was so confused as a little child, trying to take what I could find. Scared that I couldn't find all the answers, honey. Don't make me sad, don't make me cry. Sometimes love is not enough. The road gets tough, I don't know why. Keep making me love, let's go get high. The road is long, we carry on. Try to have fun in the meantime. Take a walk on the wild side. Let me kiss you hard in the pouring rain. Like your boy's insane. Choose your last words. This is the last time. 'Cause you and I, we were born to die. Born to die. Take a walk on the wild side. We were born to die. Kiss me hard in the pouring rain. 'Cause you and I were born to die. Let's go get high. Kiss me hard in the pouring rain. Like your boy's insane. 'Cause you and I were born to die. Born.
There we go. For some reason, it reset the microphone again. Hello, hello. Did someone say Don May? We did. In fact, speaking of Don May, I started growing my hair out because I loved, it inspired me, all the TV shows with all the long hair. And look at this now. This is the longest my hair has been in like a decade. Holy shit. I just took it down out of the hair tie. It's like, damn. Hello, everyone. Let me pull this light over here. Hello. We're doing book readings again. Been a minute since I've done one. We did one in the last couple months, didn't we? We did Golden Terrace over the holiday and then got busy with some things. We're going to get back to it. We're also going to get back to the other books we're reading. My health's really improved. I've really noticed I'm doing a lot better. And I really want to get back to streaming a couple times a week, doing different things. But today, I just really felt the urge to reread this book I absolutely adore. So we're going to start a book called, the translation is Devil Venerable also wants to know, or would also like to know, something to that effect. It's a fan translation. This is not official. This is fan translated by Morning Crow over on WordPress. God's bless you, Morning Crow, for your devout service. You're amazing. Before we get started, I'll actually show you, I have some physical stuff of the book because I'm literally obsessed with this book. It's probably my favorite Danmei. It's up there. Only read Mojang Tongshu. Oh my god, I probably butchered that. Forgive me. This book is great. It's the story of the villain who ends up with godlike knowledge of the universe because he finds out that the universe he lives in is a book, and he gets the book and he reads the book and he says, well, that's fucking weird. This is weird. I'm gonna like make sure shit doesn't go down like it in the book. But the thing that stands out, besides he's this big bad villain who, you'll learn more about why he's a villain, is trying to influence the plot that he now knows ahead of time. The book reveals his second in command is in love with him, and he doesn't know what to do with that. And it's quite fun. It's very dark in places. Both of the main characters are so fucked in the head. Like, I love that shit. We have our main characters. These little standees came with the book when I got it. What's his name? Wenren E. I hope I'm saying this correct. His name is literally, his first name is just the letter E with a little accent on it. Wenren E is how I'm going to say it. And then the guy over here is his second in command. I absolutely adore. And also, I bought 2 copies of this book because different sellers had different pre-orders. And this is Wenren E again. Oh, that's too shiny. Flip around to the not shiny side. Can you zoom? I need a better webcam so I can show y'all guys the nerdy shit I buy. And there's his little assistant boy. Little twink looking boy. And the book's actually signed by the author, which is so cool. There's no art or anything in the book. I like buying Chinese copies of the books I read because they often have pre-order bonuses and artwork and things. This one didn't have anything on the inside, but it's only 1 volume, so it's a shorter Danmei compared to a lot of Danmei out there that are pretty long. And it is fully translated. It's about 80 chapters over on Morning Crow, which I should, before I forget, I will link the translation so that folks who would like to can check it out. If you like stories about villains, stories that kind of have meta, breaking the fourth wall stuff, this is definitely up your alley. So I'm excited. Let's read chapter 1 of Devil Venerable Also Wants to Know. Venerable being like, let's Google this, because this is a term that's used in wuxia, the genre of Chinese kind of mythic, folkloric, fantasy stuff. A venerable is someone deserving respect because of age, high position, or religious or historical importance. First time I'd ever heard it as like a descriptor for a person was reading these books. So he's somebody that's very high level in power and respect. Everybody knows this dude. He's well known. So, Chapter 1, Divine Book from the Heavens. In the main hall of the, I'm going to have to get back into the practice of saying Chinese words, Xuanyuan sect, the Lord of Demons, Wenren Yi, had already been in secluded meditation for 7 days, doors shut tight behind him, the food and drink sent daily by his subordinates untouched. Who knew what profound cultivation technique he had comprehended? Altar Master Yuan, who managed the main hall, felt quite troubled. The venerable lord suddenly entered seclusion without any orders to his subordinates, and no one knew when he would emerge. If he'd really been enlightened to a new technique or ascended in realm, shouldn't a celebration be prepared? The Lord of Demons wasn't extravagant in nature and didn't like formalities. But if he really rose a level, then Altar Master Yuan should at least assemble everyone in the meeting room of the main hall in order to congratulate him on his increase in strength and discuss the future of the Xuanyuan sect in conquering the cultivation world. This is playing with wuxia setups, wuxia dramas, so if you don't know what wuxia is, short intro, since I don't want to intro it every time we do a video. I should just make an intro video. It's a genre of ancient martial artists fighting one another in the martial arts world, and they have different sects and stuff. And there's a sort of a dividing line where there are the good martial artists and the bad martial artists, and they always fight. And the bad ones use the dark energy, and the good ones use the good energy, and they help people. And so these are the bad martial artists who use the bad energy that's, bad. It's hard to explain. But basically, this is all kind of playing with an established universe that people that read wuxia would already have a lot, would go into knowing a lot about the genre. And it's going to play with some traditional tropes and have some comedy put into it from how it deals with what's traditional in the genre a little differently. Yin Hanjiang had been guarding the door to the meditation chamber for the full 7 days, wearing all black, a frosty expression on his face. He was a man of few words. After listening to Altar Master Yan's concerns, his indifferent face showed a slightly puzzled expression, and he seemed to be at a loss. I think I skipped a paragraph here. I did, because I scrolled down too far. Altar Master Yuan, after puzzling over his dilemma, finally decided to ask the Xuanyuan sect's left protector, Yin Hanjiang, for help. Yin Hanjiang was the Venerable, I'm going to have to get used to saying that word correctly, Venerable's closest confidant and had contact with him right before he entered seclusion. He was the one most likely to understand Wenren Yi's thoughts. So basically, the guy guarding the door of the big boss's meditation, he's getting more powerful, he's training in seclusion, and the guy guarding the door is like, it's been a while, are we supposed to, prepare dinner, celebration, something? And so he goes to the second in command, which is Yin Hanjiang, and that's going to be our second in command love interest here. The rather short Altar Master Yan looked up to meet Yin Hanjiang's eyes, waiting for advice from him. Yin Hanjiang worked his mouth and forced out a few words. Not for now. Huh? Altar Master Yan said blankly. This one heard that the Venerable received a rare tome 7 days ago and immediately entered seclusion. The Venerable has not had a breakthrough in his cultivation for years, and there are very few techniques that might catch his eye. If he's secluding himself, might there not be hope for a breakthrough? When they're talking about breakthrough, they mean in, level of power. The martial artists, they're evolving. They're like Pokemon. Every once in a while, they hit the right level and they evolve to the next one. Like I said, it's not necessary, Yin Hanjiang said coldly, and the sword in his hand flashed with a keen light. Altar Master Yan didn't dare ask more questions and hurried away. After he left, Yin Hanjiang turned to look at the tightly shut door behind him, and his frosty expression became one of confusion. The Venerable indeed received a book 7 days ago. Everyone assumed it was a secret tome, but only Yin Hanjiang, who was nearby at the time, caught a glimpse of the book's title. Abusive Romance. You are the unchanging one in my heart. The title was mushy enough to make Yin Hanjiang's teeth ache. Nothing about the book resembled a book of secret techniques. Even the romance novels written by mortal scholars had more classy titles than this. Yin Hanjiang had thought that Wenren Yi would immediately burn the rubbish work to ash. Who could have imagined he'd open it, glance at the first page, let out a deep sigh, and immediately seclude himself with it? For The Lord of Demons was a mortal novel worth carefully poring over for 7 days. The longer Yin Hanjiang stood in front of the doors, the more troubled he was. This was the cultivation world. It couldn't be compared to the Jianghu and Wulin of the mortal world. Wulin and Jianghu were communities of mortals who dedicated themselves to strengthening their bodies in order to stand out as slightly stronger than ordinary men. No matter how much they trained their inner power, it was only acquired strength, and at most they could manage to slay a beast with one fist. However, the cultivation world was a level above the martial world. Cultivators left behind the affairs of the mortal world, using various methods to ascend to the realm of immortals. Their innate power also far surpassed the Wulin martial artists' acquired power. The people of Wulin could concern themselves with love and lust, and stories of heroes and beautiful women, but cultivators tried to abandon the secular world, cut off familial and romantic ties, and enlighten to their own version of the great Tao. And Xuanyuan sect was a demonic sect. Those who were cultivating using male-female relationships only did so with lust, not love. They were using the art of plucking and replenishing to steal essence from other people, not looking for a heartfelt romance. So, summary. Say your video's so well researched you should become a voice actor. Oh, thank you. Glad you enjoy them. Summary there. He's explaining that in the mortal world with living humans, there are people that train their martial arts and get stronger, but they can only do so much. To become like a god, you have to let go of your mortal concerns and enter into the realm of the immortals, and that's what he and his fellows have done. And part of that is abandoning love, abandoning family and friends, and the demonic sect in particular believes in power only and very little concern for relationships. Plucking and replenishing here is there's a kind of a method you can use to have sex with someone else and grow more powerful, and there are characters in this book who are going to do that. The path Wenran-yi cultivated was the path of slaughter. He had never had sexual relations. How could he read abusive romance, "You are the unchanging one in my heart," for 7 days and 7 nights? Yin Hanjiang didn't understand. He didn't understand at all, but he was one of the Venerable's protectors, Wenran-yi's most loyal subordinate. He had vowed he would die before letting anyone give Wenran-yi so much as a scratch. Anyone who wanted to kill Wenran-yi had to go first through Yin Hanjiang. So even if he knew the Venerable was reading a love story and not meditating in seclusion, Yin Hanjiang still held his sword and stood before the doors of the cultivation chamber, still and silent, not moving a step. Yeah, that awkward moment when your boss is taking time off to read his pornography. On the other side of the door, Wenran-yi placed the book down, one hand hovering over the cover. For a moment it seemed as if he would disintegrate the book with one blow, but his hand was trembling slightly, and finally he withdrew it, leaving the book intact. He had his brows furrowed, one fist propped against his forehead, and seemed to be thinking his way through a thorny problem. 7 days ago, Wenran-yi had been discussing with Yin Hanjiang how they should teach a lesson to the righteous cultivators always threatening Xuanyan's sect, when a thick volume suddenly appeared in his hand. Wenran-yi was one of the most powerful figures of the cultivation world. Unless an immortal had descended from the upper realms, no one in this world could place a book into his hand without him noticing, and without leaving any sign of their presence. Wary of the situation, Wenran-yi didn't destroy the book, and managing to look past the title, opened the cover and found a few lines on the first page. Due to an abundance of plot holes, this story has been rejected by its readers. Thus, the most popular character among the readers has been selected to personally verify the story's consistency and make suitable changes. Recent-ish sub, first-time live stream, flabbergasted your channel shy of 50k. Incredibly in-depth videos have been a joy to delve into. Oh, thank you. Glad you enjoy it, and welcome. After reading this line, Wenran-yi immediately secluded himself, spending a full 7 days reading this novel of over 1 million words, cover to cover, word by word, several times over. With his strong powers of cognition, he had memorized it by the first read and had no need to reread, but he still did so several times, considering the meaning of every sentence. After spending all this time, if there was something he still didn't understand, he never would. He understood all the words and sentences. He could even visualize what was described when they were linked together, but in the end, he just didn't get it. The book told the story of the love and resentment of a man and woman's entanglement across 2 lifetimes. The female lead in her previous life was a primordial goddess of heaven. Unlike a mortal who acquired godhood, she was born as a god at the same time as heaven and earth. She was in charge of calamities, spreading plague, disaster, and death across the mortal world. It sounded like she was an evil goddess, but in fact she maintained the balance of the cosmos. Life and death must always coexist. In the cycle of the universe, all things have a beginning and end. She was absolutely just and impartial, never targeting any race of people, doing her work for uncountable ages without joy or sorrow. After an indeterminable number of eons, most of the primordial gods had fallen, and the divine realm was populated by many ascended gods. These gods were members of humanity, chief among all living things, who had awakened to the ways of heaven, gathered the essence of heaven and earth inside their bodies, and passed thousands of trials in order to gain power on the level of the primordial gods and ascend to the main realm. The male lead was one of them. The male lead was someone who saw all lives on Earth as his responsibility. In the divine realm, he learned the female lead was one of the rare primordial gods in charge of unleashing disasters. Many natural disasters he'd heard of as a human were in fact caused by her. Thus, he began constantly making appeals to the female lead, hoping for her to change her ways. The primordial goddess was as emotionless as the cosmos. To her, the male lead was no different than the drifting clouds, the soaring birds, or the buzzing of a fly near her ears. All he could do was bother her, so she would often use a silencing spell to seal his lips and toss him down from the 33 layers of heaven. but the male lead was stubborn. He climbed back every time, found a way to get rid of the silencing spell, and went back to earnestly beg her to have empathy for mortal lives. Millions of years passed like this, and the goddess's predetermined trial came. The cosmos must undergo the 3 calamities of wind, water, and fire, being destroyed and recreated innumerable times, and this applies to gods as well. The female lead accepted her fate and actively faced the tribulation. When she was prepared to undergo it, the male lead showed up. The tribulation of a primordial god far surpassed any normal one. The female lead knew she would certainly die. Only if she could maintain her soul, undergo reincarnation, and comprehend again the principles of heaven did she have a chance of survival. Therefore, before she underwent her tribulation, she left behind her divine essence, sealed somewhere in the human world so in the future she could reclaim it, regain her power, and return to the divine realm. As she was undergoing her tribulation, about to relinquish her body and enter into reincarnation, the male lead arrived and blocked a lightning strike for her, effectively taking part of the tribulation in her stead. The two entered the reincarnation cycle together. There's a lot going on here. A lot of traditional, I don't want to say Buddhist, it's Eastern thought, I'll say, just because it draws from a lot of different places and different cultures, and it's all kind of gotten wrapped up into wuxia tradition. She is a god, one of the original gods that created the universe, and it's her job to oversee the bad stuff, The male guy, the male lead, we don't know their names yet, was a human who became a god, and, he doesn't have the foresight, the forethought to realize that there's balance in everything, and he becomes too obsessed with trying to change her ways. So when her time comes to pass on and enter into reincarnation to be reborn again, in the hopes that she will ascend as a goddess in her next life, she seals her goddess magic away to be found if she ever reincarnates. The guy messes up and gets involved again. And so now she's not just entering into the cycle, this other guy is, and their fates have been connected. And that has, it means things have been interfered with. This was not how it was going to go. And this guy just cannot stop messing with shit. Unknowingly, the male lead created a karmic relationship with her. After reincarnating, the innocent female lead was inducted into a cultivation sect, and when she laid eyes on the sect's chief disciple for the first time, she was met with a sensation like her heart being struck by lightning. A lightning strike was how Wenren-yi judged the book's description. A tingling sensation spread through her body at first sight, and she was unable to move her gaze away or take a single step. Wenren-yi had never experienced love, and assumed that these symptoms could only be caused by lightning strikes. I love this book. So the two characters, the two gods, are reincarnated into human beings, and because they had this connection as gods, now they're connected in the mortal world, and the female character and the male character are going to fall in love. The two fell in love at first sight. The female lead, named Bai Li Qingmao in this life, had her heart stolen by He Wenjiao, the chief disciple who, as before, cared wholeheartedly about mortal lives. This was the beginning of a masochistic story of the female lead being abused body and heart, yet never relinquishing her love, and finally giving up the divine essence for He Wenjiao, only wanting to live happily ever after with her beloved. An overview of the specifics would be false accusations, misunderstandings, Bai Li Qingmao being imprisoned, being abused, being poisoned, being hunted down, He Wenjiao marrying someone else, several important supporting male characters being wholeheartedly devoted to Bai Li Qingmao, protecting and cherishing her, but Bai Li Qingmao only loving He Wenjiao, ignoring everyone else's goodwill, insistent on finding He Wenjiao and marrying him. Then, after being hurt by her enemies, her fellow disciples, another male character would save her, and after recovering, she would be abused again. This kind of plot line went on for over 800,000 words, and Wenren-yi nearly had a chi deviation reading it. If Bai Li Qingmao appeared in front of him right now, he would crack open her skull to see just how her brain worked. The last page had no more story, but a bunch of odd messages, labeled as Reviews section. The reviews were mostly along the lines of, This main character is insane, giving up being a god to stay with a previously married scumbag. Trash, underdeveloped, kept me waiting for over 1 million words for main character to reclaim her divinity and punish the scumbag, but she was just a bleep until the end. He Wenjiao loves the main character, but the world is more important than her. The sect is more important than her. The common people are more important than her. Everything else is more important than her. He Wenjiao can toss her aside whenever he wants. This love is far too humble. I can't handle it. He Wenjiao ruined main character's life twice. She was a primordial goddess. She saw things in a different way. Causing disasters was her duty, and it was also in order to balance the universe. He kept pressuring her to favor humanity and messed up her heavenly tribulation, making it so her next life she couldn't help but be bound to him. This guy is too terrifying, torturing the female lead for the sake of righteousness. Falling in love at first sight can be treated as the karma from their past life, but how come this karma is nothing to He Wenjiao? Yet it's Bai Li Qingmao who wants to die for him? He Wenjiao can marry the Violet Spirit Pavilion Master, so why can't Bai Li Qingmao marry Zhong Liqian or Wan Ran Yi? Is the heir the #1 cultivation family not good looking enough? Is the Lord of Demons not cool enough? Why do you gotta hang yourself on He Wenjiao? Wan Ran Yi was the only thing that kept me going for 1 million plus words. I wanted to see him tear the male lead a new one, but in the end the female lead got him killed. Wan Ran Yi, Zhong Liqian, Yin Hanjiang, any of them are better than He Wenjiao. The main character is blind. That may be true, but let's forget about Yin Hanjiang. He's too scary. Yeah, cross out Yin Hanjiang. Just seeing that name is gonna give me nightmares. Cross him out. Let's just talk about Wan Ran Yi. These names kept appearing in the comments. Wan Ran Yi, Yin Hanjiang, Zhong Liqian, and other familiar names were the reason the Lord of Demons endured reading the book. Wan Ran Yi knew the one written in the book was he himself. Just like the first lines in the book said, Wan Ran Yi was abusive romance, you are the unchanging one in my heart's haughty but infatuated second love interest. The world he lived in was but a story in a book. So yeah, this is a parody of major novels in Chinese media. There's a website that these novels get published, and this is specifically a parody of the stories that focus really on female-oriented stories where it's all about her suffering and the romance sucks. And it's just 1 million words of suckage. And this story is both going to present an alternative where the female character gets to actually exist and better herself, and the male character of our main character, Wan Ran Yi, is going to end up with a guy. So basically it kind of ends up going in both different directions of we're going to show how the dominant narrative in this world is not helping anyone, and these characters shouldn't bend over backward for a self-centered guy just because he's the main character, what have you. A normal cultivator who learned such a truth about the world would probably take a heavy psychological blow, either apathetically living out the rest of their days or deviating and going mad. Even Wan Ran Yi was in a daze for a while, but he was a person who sought enlightenment in the midst of death and slaughter and had an unshakable will. He quickly realized the cultivation world was only one of the myriad worlds of the cosmos. In other people's eyes, his world was only a novel, but the novel, Abusive Romance, You Are the Unchanging One in My Heart, only recorded the love, hate, enmity, and animosity of a few dozen people. The things not included within it were enough to make up an entire world. The book was only a record of the lives of certain people at certain times, not a world in itself. Wan Ran Yi knew he certainly existed. His thoughts and actions weren't subject to anyone else's control, and the world was real, so that was enough for him. The thing Wan Ran Yi really couldn't figure out was that the book said he would, in the future, fall in love with Bai Li Qingmao, take on the world for her and give his life for her. The cold and dispassionate Wan Ran Yi couldn't understand this. Just by reading the book, he wanted to yank Bai Li Qingmao's soul out of her body, make her forget her feelings for He Wenjiao, and then shove it back in. How could he, for the sake of protecting her, risk his life to help He Wenjiao because she asked him to? Wan Ran Yi knew if he didn't get to the bottom of these things, the obsession might give rise to an inner demon that would obstruct his cultivation. He had to figure out these matters, not necessarily to fulfill the assignment he was given at the start of the book, but to settle his mind. I love how it opens up with, this is a romance where the main character has never felt love or understood love in any form. And the book will slowly reveal that, well, yeah, he has. You know, his love is different. It's different. It's great. After contemplating for 3 days, he made his decision. He would figure out why Bai Li Qingmao was such a shameless... and why she was so hopelessly infatuated. He himself couldn't figure it out, and maybe Bai Li Qingmao was also muddle-headed. She'd been struck by lightning, after all, so maybe her brain wasn't working right. Literally does not fathom what love is. But the other people in the book, in particular Bai Li Qingmao's romantic rivals, probably knew what they were doing. After all, they also loved He Wenjiao and were willing to fight each other to the death for his sake. If one person wasn't enough, he would have to find more. If he asked enough people, he would get the answer. When he figured out the problem, the difficulty of changing the plot would decrease. After he made his plans, Wen Renyi opened the doors. As Yin Hanjiang stood guard just outside, saw him, he dropped to one knee and set his sword on the ground, quietly awaiting the Venerable's command. Wen Renyi looked at his left protector, whom he trusted above anyone else, and remembered that he was also in the novel. Protector Yin, your thoughts on love? Actually, never mind. After he said only a few words, Wen Renyi remembered Yin Hanjiang's actions in the story that caused all the readers to be so creeped out and decided against asking. Yin Hanjiang probably also didn't understand love. Ah, yes, a love story about idiots who don't know what love stories are, who don't know what love is. They only know violence. Chapter 2, Temptress of Xuanyan Sect. Yin Hanjiang figured out what Wen Renyi was about to say, that he was asking him his thoughts on love. Honestly, Yin Hanjiang also didn't understand. As a child, he was picked up out of a mass grave by Wen Renyi and taken back to Xuanyan Sect. From the beginning, the Venerable's command was his will, and he'd never expressed his own opinions. Even though Wen Renyi hadn't finished the question, Yin Hanjiang bowed his head and said, "The Venerable's preferences are this subordinate's beliefs." If the Venerable liked stories, Yin Hanjiang would collect all the stories on Earth for him. If he liked men or women, Yin Hanjiang would bring all the people he liked before him. The Venerable's wishes were Yin Hanjiang's command. Wen Renyi stared at Yin Hanjiang kneeling before him and recalled the novel filling his brain for the past few days. Judging by the novel's account, Yin Hanjiang really did act according to his words. Yin Hanjiang was abusive romance, you are the unchanging one in my hearts, love interest number 4. Trusted subordinate to number 2, Wen Renyi. He was habitually silent and reserved, faithfully protected Bai Li Qingmao and tended to her every need. When Wen Renyi couldn't watch over Bai Li Qingmao himself, he would send Yin Hanjiang to guard her. Yin Hanjiang took blows for her, got poisoned for her, got injured for her, nearly lost his life, all without a word of complaint. He never even confessed to her. The most revealing words he'd ever expressed was when, while the two of them were facing danger, Bai Li Qingmao told him to escape first. He replied in a hoarse voice, "Either we both survive or I die to protect you." What girl could resist such devoted, honest, and heartfelt words? In the earlier parts of the novel, Yin Hanjiang's popularity exceeded Wen Renyi's at some point. Even Bai Li Qingmao, still crazy for He Wenjiao, told Yin Hanjiang in tears she couldn't repay her debt to him if she spent her life trying. All the readers, including Wen Renyi, thought Yin Hanjiang was deeply in love with Bai Li Qingmao. But after Wen Renyi died for her, Yin Hanjiang... Wen Renyi thought back to the storyline he reread 4 or 5 times. He asked Yin Hanjiang, "While this Venerable is here, you are certainly wholeheartedly loyal, but what if someday this Venerable is no longer here?" Listening to Wen Renyi's words, a shudder ran through Yin Hanjiang's body, and the arm propping him up trembled slightly. It seemed as if he could hardly endure even thinking about the possibility of Wen Renyi's death. He didn't want to imagine, but Wenren-yi had asked the question, so he forced himself to consider it. In a few moments, a cold sweat had broken out on his forehead, and it seemed he was at his limit. After a long while, he forced an answer out through gritted teeth. This subordinate will die before the Venerable. Wenren-yi absently wiped away the sweat on Yin Hanjiang's forehead with a brush of his sleeve. His actions were warm, but his words were uncaring. What if this Venerable had unfinished business and didn't allow you to die? Yin Hanjiang's pupils trembled, and he switched to kneeling with both knees, pressing both hands against the ground, lowering his head deeply. The subordinate doesn't know. He didn't know, but Wenren-yi did. In the book, Wenren-yi ordered Yin Hanjiang to protect Bai Li Qingmao before he died, thinking that Yin Hanjiang also liked Bai Li Qingmao and would certainly protect her, just as he himself intended. And Yin Hanjiang indeed carried out his order, never leaving Bai Li Qingmao's side. But at the same time, a man in a ghost mask inexplicably appeared in the story. He seemed to be inescapable, using every method he could think of to harm Bai Li Qingmao. After Bai Li Qingmao was injured, he sprinkled bone-melting powder on her wounds. After Bai Li Qingmao passed out, he threw her into the 1,000 snake pit. When Bai Li Qingmao was alone, he hung up a cauldron and tried to refine her into lamp oil. With each of his appearances, he became more and more depraved. The entire time, the readers had been trying to guess exactly which wicked female character was disguising herself as the ghost mask. Even though he was described as a man, in the cultivation world, there were many ways for a woman to pretend to be a man. But no one could have guessed what had happened when at one point, Bai Li Qingmao and Yin Hanjiang hid in a cave as they fled from the ghost mask. Bai Li Qingmao had said quietly, "Mr. Yin, I'm so lucky you're here." Really, Yin Hanjiang had said. Bai Li Qingmao was exhausted, about to doze off against his back, when she saw a corner of a bundle that Yin Hanjiang had been carrying the whole time had fallen open. What she glimpsed inside was the very same sight that had made her jerk awake from countless nightmares, the ghost mask. After Wenren-yi died, Yin Hanjiang finally acted against orders. He wanted to kill Bai Li Qingmao after subjecting her to every torture. Wanted to send her down to accompany Wenren-yi. He wanted to refine her soul into an ever-burning lamp to light Wenren-yi's path in the afterlife. Ah, true love. All the ways he had taken care of her in the past weren't because he loved her, but because this was what Wenren-yi had ordered. Because of that, he made Bai Li Qingmao's safety his priority. After Wenren-yi died for Bai Li Qingmao, Yin Hanjiang only wanted to hurt her in 1,000 different ways. While reading, Wenren-yi didn't understand Yin Hanjiang's motivations. Only after coming out and asking him did he realize how much pain Yin Hanjiang must have been in. His first point of confusion in the book was now solved. Hello, folks. Thanks for those Silent Hill Fatal Frame videos. Really appreciate the effort. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. You can get up, Wenren-yi said. Yin Hanjiang, after wiping his bottom lip with his sleeve, got steadily to his feet. Wenren-yi caught his arm and smelled a tinge of blood on his sleeve. Forcing him to imagine the demonic lord's death actually caused Yin Hanjiang this much pain. Even Wenren-yi, who cultivated the path of slaughter, was a bit moved. Right now, Wenren-yi hadn't fallen in love with Bai Li Qingmao, like the version of him in the book. He didn't think there was anything wrong with what Yin Hanjiang did. Among those who cultivated the demonic paths, who could be considered selfless? If you can't have something, destroy it. If you die, take your enemy with you to the afterlife. This was all perfectly normal. Wenren-yi wanted to tell the book's Yin Hanjiang, not bad. And while he's at it, he'd like to beat up the book's Wenren-yi. The female lead, at least, had something wrong with her head. What Wenren-yi couldn't accept was the idea he himself had abandoned everything for the sake of love. That was totally impossible. Why would he be pulled under and become completely unable to free himself? And why would Bai Li Qingmao be infatuated with He Wenjiao until she lost herself, still wanting to be with him after being injured so many times? Why would the jealous female villains frame an innocent girl because of He Wenjiao? There was much that Wen Ren-yi didn't understand. Yin Hanjiang had cleared up one point of confusion for him, but there were many more questions facing the Lord of Demons. Wen Ren-yi rested a hand against Yin Hanjiang's chest and sent a stream of energy into him to help him heal. Yin Hanjiang put up no resistance, allowing Wen Ren-yi's oppressive energy freely enter his Daishin and help him suppress his spiritual essence in turmoil from his unsteady mental state. Daishin is like... it's like a chakra, I guess, is a way to put it. Hello from Brazil, thanks for your videos. Well, hello, thanks for joining us. Basically, he upset himself thinking about Wen Ren-yi's death so bad, he hurt his soul, and Wen Ren-yi is healing it. After casually fixing up Yin Hanjiang, Wen Ren-yi commanded, "Tell the right protector to come to the meeting room." Yin Hanjiang obeyed, taking out one of the Venerable's commanding talismans and sending a summons to the right protector. The two came to the meeting room and waited a while until a woman in purple clothes arrived leisurely. What she was wearing could less be called clothes and more a strip of purple gauze wound around her body, barely covering any vital areas, instead outlining her alluring figure, capturing people's attentions. Unfortunately, the two in front of her were blind and had hearts of ice. The right protector, Shu Yanyan, had long gotten used to this kind of reaction from them. She made a suggestive bowing motion to Wen Ren-yi, and after being allowed to rise, said impatiently, "Venerable, do you need me to go beat up those two-faced hypocrites of the righteous sects? This subordinate has been itching to do it." She covered her mouth, while revealing a bashful smile. Wen Ren-yi well understood this subordinate of his. "Are you itching to punish them or harvest their yang to supply your yin?" "Aren't those the same?" Shu Yanyan fluttered her eyelashes at Wen Ren-yi. "Venerable, you know me. I follow the path of desire. I wouldn't miss the chance to kill two birds with one stone." So harvest their yang to supplement your yin. He's talking about she walks the path of desire. She has sex, and she's like a succubus. She has sex and sucks out the energy of the guy, and it makes her more powerful. Wen Ren-yi raised a hand. Shu Yanyan, receiving his permission, walked to the seat on his right and sat down, languidly stretching out her long legs, every movement displaying irresistible feminine charm. Wen Ren-yi ignored the seduction she had inadvertently released and said unhurriedly, "Do you know the chief disciple of Shangqing sect, He Wenjiao?" "Oh, him? That piques my interest." Shu Yanyan sprawled lazily across the chair without a hint of proper posture. Propping her chin with one hand and batting her eyes, she said, "Venerable, didn't you send us out 3 months ago to investigate the righteous sect's plans? I disguised myself as a frail, pitiful songstress and pretended to be mistreated in a restaurant before some young disciples of Shangqing sect. He Wenjiao was the one who came to my aid. That guy." Stopping there, Shu Yanyan licked her lips, as if savoring a taste, and paused for a moment before continuing. "His true yang was quite satisfying." Wen Ren-yi knew exactly what she was talking about. In the book, He Wenjiao's yang was indeed taken by Shu Yanyan, and he lost a lot of cultivation. Shu Yanyan locked him up in her cultivation grounds and just about sucked him empty, and in the end it was Bai Li Qingmao, as always, who risked her life to save him. In addition, to help him replenish his essence, she went to the 1,000-mile ice plains to find the elixir known as the Snow Flame. She then helped He Wenjiao absorb it, increasing his cultivation immensely. Shu Yanyan was essentially the #1 villain of the first part of the story. She wasn't in love with He Wenjiao, simply coveted his energy, a temptress in all aspects. And due to Shu Yanyan being a wicked person trying to harm He Wenjiao, Bai Li Qingmao, for the first time, forgave him for having dealings with another woman. The temptress of Xuanyan sect practiced the art of seduction, and her power was far above that of He Wenjiao. If she wanted to do something, He Wenjiao had no way to resist. He was the victim here. Obviously. What Bai Li Qingmao didn't know at the time was there would be a second occasion, and a third, and innumerable occasions beyond that when He Wenjiao was being coerced and expected her to understand. Setting up the plot line here for how the main dude's gonna end up being. Tell me what happened then, Wenren said. Going by the book's word count, the current plot should only have advanced 70 or 80,000 words in, which was the only happy portion of the book. After Bai Li Qing Mao entered Shanqing's sect, falling in love with He Wenjiao at first sight, the two of them cultivated for over 10 years, spending time together as innocent children. He Wenjiao showed her every consideration to his little Shime. That means like a martial arts sect sister, so like his comrade in arms. The two of them often secretly stole out to pick flowers and watch the moon, or practice techniques with each other in the dead of night, never going further due to propriety. Their affections toward each other were as sweet as honey, enough to give one cavities. There were also some female disciples who stirred up trouble, but back then everyone was young and innocent, and none of them did anything improper. He Wenjiao was also an upstanding young hero, the sect's beloved prodigy, and had yet to take on any heavy responsibilities. The temptress Shu Yanyan was the first conflict between them. Who remembers that much? Said Shu Yanyan. All I was thinking about was the man's energy. As I'm sure the Venerable knows, my cultivation level has remained stagnant for many years. If this keeps up much longer, I'm going to get wrinkles. While talking, she brought out a mirror, inspecting her face, which looked no older than a 16-year-old girl's, and after finding it satisfactory, continued. He Wenjiao's yang energy is unusual. He has a lightning spiritual root and seemed to be a deeper mysterious power inside him. I'm certain if I can take his essence, I'll be able to raise my cultivation. Now we're going to get into some explanation of martial arts stuff here. Among cultivators, there were 5 different types of normal spiritual roots. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Those are the elements in Chinese tradition. Just saying in Chinese sounds weird. And 5 kinds of variant spiritual roots: wind, lightning, ice, light, and land. Ordinary people mostly had mixed spiritual roots of 3, 4, or 5 elements. People with dual elemental roots were considered naturally gifted. A normal, pure root was 1 in a million. A pure variant spiritual root was a heaven-blessed genius which might not be encountered once in 10,000 years. And yet He Wenjiao possessed a pure, lightning spiritual root. Did this lightning spiritual root come from the heavenly lightning he was struck by in his past life? Wenren muttered to himself, deep in thought. And that mysterious power was naturally his divine power. He Wenjiao was a god in his past life and kept his acquired divine essence with him in reincarnation. Bai Li Qing Mao possessed a primordial divine essence which was born together with heaven and earth. Unlike He Wenjiao, it could not follow her into a mortal body. If Shu Yanyan stole He Wenjiao's essence, his divine power would certainly increase her cultivation significantly. Why didn't you take action against him 3 months ago? His level of strength can't stand up to yours, Wenren said. Shu Yanyan sighed. I wanted to take him, but the power in him is very unusual. If he isn't willing to be with me, I can't force him. He has a sweetheart, a little girl whose looks aren't worse than my own. She's very sharp, too, and was suspicious of me the whole time, always keeping an eye on her man. I couldn't even find a chance. Oh, Wenren raised an eyebrow slightly. They have to be willing. The book hadn't mentioned that. It was written from Bai Li Qing Mao's point of view, and when He Wenjiao told her that Shu Yanyan drugged and abducted him, Bai Li Qing Mao believed it. Venerable, don't you know me at all? Shu Yanyan said, pouting. In these matters, I always pay attention to mutual consent. If a man performs particularly well and I like him, I'll pay him back a little while cultivating and help him replenish his lost essence. Aside from my enemies, those sweethearts at my cultivation grounds have all received benefits. Sometimes I get tired of someone and try to shoo them away, but they aren't even willing to leave. We stan an ethical succubus. I never actually knew that. It seems what this Venerable doesn't know amounts to a great deal, Wenren thought. But I won't let He Wenjiao off lightly, Shu Yanyan said faithfully to Wenren. His Shanqing sect was the ringleader in the last assault on Xuanyan sect. How can I show mercy to the chief disciple of an enemy? Don't worry, Venerable. I've already had secret contact with He Wenjiao behind that little Bai Li Qing Mao girl's back for several days while pretending to be an innocent maiden. He pities me and keeps sneaking out to bring me gifts. He'll be mine soon enough. Wen Ren-yi hesitated for a moment. No, it's not necessary, he said. What isn't necessary? Shu Yanyan said, blinking her large, pretty eyes. It's not necessary to ruin him, Wen Ren-yi said, tapping a finger on his armrest. Do what you're accustomed to, draw it out for a while. He indeed has unique power within him, which will be of benefit to you. No need to do anything extreme. Huh. Shu Yanyan stared in shock. Is this the same venerable lord who would eradicate his enemies, root and branch, and not show a shred of mercy? She furrowed her brows. He's Shanqing sect's most favored disciple, pillar of the righteous sects. Should we not deal with him while he's young, and instead leave him to become a problem in the future? If I repay him while cultivating with him, his power will rise more quickly. This might benefit me, but it wouldn't be a benefit to the sect. As Shu Yanyan spoke, her expression became vicious, all signs of her gentle, charming manner gone. These words pleased Wen Ren-yi greatly. If you asked Wen Ren-yi, this was how a cultivator should be. The great Tao is emotionless. Rather than cling to passions, better one uses them for their own benefit. One must stand firm, lest in a moment of weakness they bring about their own demise. Seeing Shu Yanyan's far-sightedness and Yin Hanzhang's efficiency, and then remembering the hymn in the book, so blinded by love he was willing to abandon the Xuanyan sect for Bai Li Qing Mao. Wen Ren-yi felt deeply he wasn't much above his two sect protectors. A normal person would probably try to stay away from Bai Li Qing Mao in the future, to avoid the possibility of being entrapped, but Wen Ren-yi was a person who faced problems head-on. He was determined to meet Bai Li Qing Mao and He Wenjiao, to harden his heart and not be moved by any emotion. Thinking that, he ordered, Shu Yanyan, we must think more long-term. You need to sabotage Shangqing sect. Shu Yanyan thought for a moment and clapped her hands, eyes lighting up. Venerable, this subordinate understands your intention. What I must do is use the guise of a poor, honest woman to lure astray the future pillar of the righteous sects, break down his defenses, and have him wrapped around my finger, letting him believe I'm a good-hearted woman who went down a wicked path, but still inside wishes for redemption. I should get him obsessed with me, captivated by my beauty, captivated by the power he can gain from me, and afterward, if one day I plead to him, save me, he'll happily divulge information regarding his sect that he doesn't see as very important. Even better if I can take leadership of the sect in the future. I can slowly lead him onto the demonic path until he finds himself in too deep and unable to turn back. Shu Yanyan got more and more enthusiastic as she spoke, wanting to immediately head out and play the damsel in distress. Playing the long game was the right way to go. Wen Ren-yi. So sometimes in these books, they will have parts where they'll just do ... Like the characters are literally in a comic or a TV show going. So that's what it says here. It says Wen Ren-yi, ... He just wanted Bai Li Qing Mao to see clearly that He Wenjiao was willingly together with Shu Yanyan. So let Shu Yan hook He Wenjiao. As it turned out, Shu Yanyan thought more deeply than him and elevated it from a matter of a relationship to being about the Great War. His right protector actually was a woman with high aims. In the past, Wen Ren-yi hadn't even known. Your plan is functional, but keep 2 points in mind. First, do not harm Bai Li Qing Mao. Second, do not be entangled by love yourself. Wen Ren-yi said. The Venerable indeed has keen foresight. Leaving Bai Li Qing Mao alone and letting her cause trouble will only push He Wenjiao closer to me, the good and obedient one. She's certainly more useful alive than dead, Shu Yanyan said, nodding. As for He Wenjiao, there's no need for concern. Your subordinate is a seasoned veteran. She can see through all the two-faced men in the world. After saying this, Shu Yanyan turned and left the meeting room, leaving the two silent men with the image of her slim back. Protector Yin, Wen Ren-yi said, after a long while, this Venerable is not much better than the right protector. He was referring to the hymn in the book. Yin Hanzhang said, the Venerable is the most far-seeing man in the world. The right protector is not worth 1,000th of the Venerable. Ah, you. Wen Ren-yi shook his head and changed the subject. Leave the mountain with me. I want to meet this junior from Shanqing sect. He wanted to see, now that Shu Yanyan wouldn't steal He Wenjiao's essence, just how He Wenjiao was going to explain himself to Bai Li Qingmao, and whether or not she would forgive him, as she had in the book. The Lord of Demons was quite curious. God, I forgot how good this book is. This book is just so fun also as a parody of wuxia. If you, have seen any of these movies or these TV shows where the martial arts sects, the good and the bad, are fighting each other, the yin and yang of the Tao, it's so fun how they play with these things, and the Venerable character himself is really interesting. The more you learn about why he is the way he is, it's a very fascinating morality on the level of godhood, of what it is to be so above humanity, to be able to see it in a more gray light, but at the same time, that actually lets you care more about humans deeply, in a way. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. Chapter 3. So that was it. Cultivators could use the power of heaven and earth to travel 1,000 miles in a flash. In less than half a day, the group had arrived at a small town near Shanqing sect. This was with Wen Renyi lowering his speed to wait for Yin Hanjiang. Otherwise, he could have arrived in 15 minutes. Cultivation stages in this world were split into 9 stages. Qi gathering, Qi refining, foundation established, core formation, nascent soul, deity transformation, body unity, void boundary, and Mahayana. Each stage had 9 levels. And after you broke through the 9th level of the Mahayana stage, the heavens would send down a tribulation, and if you passed, you could ascend to the immortal realm. It said that the immortals were also split into Wandering Immortal, Heavenly Immortal, Golden Immortal, Great Golden Immortal, Immortal Lord, and Immortal Emperor. After breaking through Immortal Emperor stage, one could ascend to the Divine Realm. The Divine Realm was also split into countless stages, but no matter how much an ascended god cultivated, they could not surpass primordial gods born alongside the cosmos. No matter how strong a cultivator was, they were only borrowing the power of the cosmos. For the primordial gods, the cosmos was their home, while the ascended gods were just lodging temporarily. The difference between them was vast. Wen Renyi, Lord of Demons, was already recognized as the strongest among the demonic sects, but he was only at the 6th level of Mahayana. Realize Mahayana 6th level is like 3 levels from godhood. So this dude is up there. He's up there. In the female lead's past life, she had been infinitely stronger than anyone else who appeared in the book, yet she had actually given up her divine essence to be with He Wenjiao. You couldn't blame Wen Renyi for thinking she had issues in the head. He would even suspect He Wenjiao had cast some sort of sorcery on her soul to control her, but the sorcerer arts of the cultivation world, no matter how strong, would all shatter the moment Bai Li Qingmao became one with her divine essence. They would be like a drop of poison in the ocean, or a wisp of toxic gas in a hurricane. In the face of absolute power, all the sorcery in the world amounted to nothing. Wen Renyi, sitting on the 2nd floor of a tea house, sipped the tea Yin Hanjiang had brought him as he pondered. This subordinate's powers are weak, and has wasted the Venerable's time. Yin Hanjiang didn't sit, instead standing at Wen Renyi's back. No matter, Wen Renyi indicated the seat next to him. Sit. Yin Hanjiang obediently sat next to Wen Renyi. Without a command from the Venerable, he wouldn't sit, and if he was commanded, he wouldn't say empty words like, "This subordinate doesn't dare." If Wen Renyi ordered it, even if Yin Hanjiang didn't dare, he had to do it. Act natural. Hide your aura. Right now, we're just 2 warriors from Wulin who know some martial arts, Wen Renyi said, seeing Yin Hanjiang's stiff back. If Wen Renyi spoke once, Yin Hanjiang moved once. He relaxed his ramrod straight back, though his muscles were still tense. Yin Hanjiang was very rarely face-to-face with Wen Renyi. He hardly lifted his head, holding his teacup and watching the steam rise off it without drinking. He was almost like a marionette, with no thoughts of his own. If Wen Renyi acted, If Wen Renyi commanded, he acted. Yin Hanjiang was only at the 1st level of body unity, yet at Xuanyuan sect he was ranked above all but one man. The weakest of the Altar Masters, Altar Master Yuan, was at the 9th level, and the other 3 were at the top of Void Boundary. Right Protector Shu Yanyan was at the 6th level of Void Boundary. Of the 6 in Xuanyuan sect who served directly under Wen Renyi, Yin Hanjiang was the weakest. Sensibly, there's no way he should be the left protector. The only reason he had such a high position was because Wenren-Yi trusted him, and he was dedicated to Wenren-Yi. When Wenren-Yi pulled him out of a pile of corpses, he was barely breathing, and half his body was necrotic. No one would have thought he was alive, and even if they knew he was still breathing, they wouldn't have tried to save him. Wenren-Yi had a keen sense of life and death. When he walked past, he discovered Yin Hanjiang lying there, waiting for death, with dull, staring eyes. Wenren-Yi, who at the time was the leader of a small demonic sect, used his foot to move the corpse on top of Yin Hanjiang's body. Looking down at the child, he said in an impassive tone, "I need a sword." The tiny Yin Hanjiang somehow worked up the strength to raise his small, thin arm and grab Wenren-Yi's shoe. From then, Yin Hanjiang became an emotionless sword, only swung for Wenren-Yi. He improved at breakneck speed and in only a few decades achieved body unity stage, advancing many times faster than Wenren-Yi himself had. But after reaching body unity, Yin Hanjiang couldn't raise his level no matter how he cultivated, stagnating for 100 years. Wenren-Yi originally thought body unity stage was Yin Hanjiang's natural limit, but the book clearly stated Ghost Mask was at the peak of Mahayana. This was also why Bai Li Qingmao never would have guessed Yin Hanjiang was the Ghost Mask. The first reason was Yin Hanjiang treated her so well, there was no way she could have doubted him. The second was that even though Yin Hanjiang had chanced upon some ways to increase his cultivation while protecting her, he was still only at the 9th level of body unity. Who would conflate him with the Mahayana stage Ghost Mask? By the latter parts of Abusive Romance, the Ghost Mask was already ranked number 1 in the cultivation world. If he wasn't obsessed with refining Bai Li Qingmao into lamp oil, he could have long since broken through the final level and ascended. Bai Li Qingmao really did get thrown into a furnace, but her luck came through at the last moment. She merged with the divine essence, releasing a burst of devastating power at that instant that killed Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang was at body unity, but the Ghost Mask was at Mahayana, 2 stages above. Wenren-Yi looked at his most trusted subordinate's face and said, "Hold out your hand." Yin Hanjiang offered his hand, and Wenren-Yi took hold of his wrist, sending a stream of energy into his meridians. That's like the spiritual veins. After a moment of investigation, he confirmed Yin Hanjiang really was at the 1st level. No hints otherwise. After he gathered a large volume of spiritual energy in his Dacian, he was unable to transform over 100 years of cultivation. He'd probably forcibly gathered this unbearable amount of energy to break through and been suffering all this time. Were it not for the book, Wenren-Yi would never be able to understand this situation and would have only assumed his talent was insufficient. In other words, he's hit a roadblock and it's hurting him physically. He feels physical pain because he's not been able to break through this next level. It seemed many plot lines in the book that looked unreasonable at first sight had reasonable explanations behind them. "How long has this gone on?" Wenren-Yi said. Yin Hanjiang avoided the question, instead saying, "The subordinate will put all efforts toward making a breakthrough." Looking at him, a distant memory came to Wenren-Yi's mind. When he took Yin Hanjiang back to his sect, his first priority was eliminating his enemy, so he left the boy at home to grow up and casually tossed him a cultivation manual to study on his own. 10 years later, when he returned to the sect, Yin Hanjiang had already grown into a tall youth and was hacking away with the sword again and again on the mountainside. The assignment Wenren-Yi had left him 10 years ago was to split a waterfall, so he'd been swinging at it for 10 years. Dedication, resolve, loyalty, these 3 words outlined everything about Yin Hanjiang. "Don't push yourself so hard," Wenren-Yi said. "You can take things slowly. This Venerable is already plenty strong." He thought that would reassure him, but a flash of pain showed in Yin Hanjiang's eyes, like he was being abandoned. "Does the Venerable no longer need this subordinate?" he said hoarsely. Honestly, he was not very necessary. Back then, Wenren-Yi wanted to unify the demonic sects and urgently needed talent under him. Now, Xuanyan sect had great power and influence. All the demonic sects were under Wenren-Yi's heel, and the sect protectors and the altar masters were all loyal to him. Wenren-Yi long since had no need for a personal bodyguard. The sword, known as Yin Hanjiang, had no chance to be unsheathed. Wan Runny didn't answer him. He retrieved that brick of a book from his sleeves and opened it to a certain page. That was when Yin Hanjiang was protecting Bai Li Qing Mao from Shang Qing's sex pursuers. Bai Li Qing Mao said gratefully to him, "Mr. Yin, you've done so much for me." Yin Hanjiang held his sword in his lap, the firelight reflecting on his faintly smiling face. "You are the only person the Venerable needs a sword to protect." First read, one would think Yin Hanjiang had feelings for Bai Li Qing Mao, using loyalty as an excuse. But reading through again, Wan Ren-yi noticed the word sword. Wan Ren-yi had left this sword, Yin Hanjiang, unused for too long. Only for Bai Li Qing Mao's safety did he pick it up again. Why was Yin Hanjiang smiling? It wasn't that he loved Bai Li Qing Mao, but that he was needed once again by Wan Ren-yi. Wan Ren-yi replaced the book. Looking at Yin Hanjiang, a bitter, nameless feeling rose in his heart. "This Venerable doesn't need a sword," he said in a cold tone. The light in Yin Hanjiang's eyes died somewhat. He withdrew his hand, resting on the table, and tightly gripped the sword at his waist. The book often described Yin Hanjiang as holding a sword. Once a cultivator reached foundation stage, they could store their bonded weapons inside their bodies. Even at the chi refining stage, they could use other storage items. There was no need to hold their weapon all the time. Yet Yin Hanjiang always had his sword in hand. Unknown to Wan Ren-yi, his gaze had softened. He continued, "But this Venerable needs Yin Hanjiang." Bye, Abigail. Thanks for joining us. Oh, hey, Caffeine. Welcome. Yin Hanjiang's hand on his sword relaxed a bit. He heard the next words from Wan Ren-yi. "Back when we had just met, this Venerable did not trust anyone on earth. This Venerable only trusted Yin Hanjiang." Venerable? Yin Hanjiang's words were hardly out of his mouth when he was interrupted by a woman in a thin white robe with a pipa in hand. That's like a flute, I think? It's a lute, stringed instrument. She walked up to the second floor, strumming the pipa, and began to sing. Now it shows once again the two of them just blank, just ... The woman was Shu Yanyan. The two had gotten used to seeing her in revealing clothing, and this proper, pitiful Shu Yanyan, like a white lotus flower that trembled in the wind, looked really out of place to them. There were a good number of guests with them on the second floor. Shu Yanyan was the tea house's songstress. After she finished her song, she began to sell flowers. She was trying to be self-sufficient, not charging for songs, just selling flowers after singing. The income from the flowers had to be split, 70-30, with the tea house owner, 30 for her, 70 for him. She was as pitiful as you needed her to be. Wan Ren-yi took out a 10-tael silver piece and casually tossed it in the flower basket in front of Shu Yanyan. Shu Yanyan picked up the flower basket and slowly walked up to Wan Ren-yi. "Honored guest, this maiden is not selling songs but flowers," she said in a soft voice. "One basket is only 10 copper coins. There's no need to pay this much." She had 10 baskets of flowers at her feet. Even if she sold all of them, after splitting it with the owner, she would only have 30 coins for herself. If she saved half a month, she could afford a taste of meat, and the other days she could only eat steamed buns. Wan Ren-yi didn't look at Shu Yanyan. He glanced at Yin Hanjiang and mentally transmitted to him, "Call me brother." Yin Hanjiang looked dazed, like he was in a dream. He spoke his lines woodenly from the script Wan Ren-yi had given him. "My brother gave it to you, so take it. Don't be ungrateful." When he said the word brother, Yin Hanjiang's ears turned bright red. "This one appreciates these honored guests' generosity, but it's not right for me to accept silver. This maiden isn't willing to do so." Shu Yanyan reached out her slender, ice-cold fingers, retrieved the silver piece from the basket, and placed it on their table, bowing to them respectfully. What Wan Ren-yi was supposed to do was stuff the silver piece down the front of Shu Yanyan's robes and tell her, "Take it out right here and I'll accept it back," making her cry helplessly in the middle of the tea house. But he really didn't know how to do that sort of thing, and Yin Hanjiang didn't have any interest either, so the two of them only sat drinking their tea, ignoring Shu Yanyan. Shu Yanyan grew anxious at the lack of response. If they didn't humiliate her, how was she supposed to play the next part? Basically, they're trying to set this up where she's a victim of their abuse at the tea house, so the hero will fall for it and come rescue her, and that'll make a connection there. But the two guys are so uninterested in sex that they don't know how to sexually harass her. She'd already made plans for her subordinates to play the act, but the Venerable wanted to participate in the action, so she called off her subordinates and gave the main role to him. She thought all men had these base urges. Wouldn't any be happy to play out this role? As it turned out, the Venerable wasn't that sort of person at all and had no interest in bullying the weak. "Aren't you a demonic cultivator? Can't you act like one?" Shu Yanyan saw He Wenjiao and Bai Li Qingmao had already arrived outside the tea house. The audience had taken their seats, but the stage wasn't set yet. This wouldn't do at all. She winked furiously at the Venerable until she was going cross-eyed. "You do it," Wen Renyi transmitted to Yin Hanjiang. He decided to delegate more things to Yin Hanjiang in the future, to try and help his "if the Venerable doesn't need me, I can just die" attitude. Yin Hanjiang, hearing the order, thought back to the script Shu Yanyan gave him and stared numbly at the beautiful young woman. He was supposed to pull open her robes and shove the silver piece down her bosom in front of the Venerable? He felt extremely awkward, but the Venerable had given him an order. "You can go according to your own judgment. No need to follow Shu Yanyan's script," Wan Renyi transmitted, sensing Yin Hanjiang's distress. For such an evil, badass demon overlord, he's so nice to his subordinate. Gaining his approval, Yin Hanjiang's expression immediately relaxed. With a frosty, toneless voice, he said, "If you insist on being ungrateful, don't blame me for what I'm about to do." With that, he picked up Shu Yanyan with one hand and tossed her down from the second floor, having her fall directly in front of Bai Li Qingmao and He Wenjiao. He Wenjiao saw a human fall from the sky and wanted to help, but Bai Li Qingmao was right next to him. He'd just had a fight with her back at the sect about Liu Xingmei and didn't want to provoke her temper again. Seeing this figure was a woman and not seeing her face, he decided not to act. On the other hand, Bai Li Qingmao saw a person fall from the second story and immediately leapt forward to save her, because she's a good person. Shu Yanyan's plan was falling to pieces. She couldn't be saved by Bai Li Qingmao. The one who saved her should be He Wenjiao, embracing her in front of Bai Li Qingmao. So Shu Yanyan, hardening her resolve, used her spiritual energy to speed up her fall, so Bai Li Qingmao's outstretched hand only brushed a corner of her clothes before she hit the ground. She even stealthily used her spiritual energy to wound herself, acting like the fall had seriously injured her. Bai Li Qingmao's fingers only clutched a piece of white fabric before she saw the frail woman slam into the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. She jumped down, kneeling by the woman's side, and propped her up. "Maiden, are you all right?" she said with concern. When the woman turned her head, she discovered it was someone she knew. "Miss Shu," Bai Li Qingmao said in shock. He Wenjiao only then arrived. Seeing it was the poor girl he'd saved several days ago and felt goodwill for, he regretted not saving her. Shu Yanyan, who had taken the name Shu Lian, shed a single tear in her heart as she was being held in Bai Li Qingmao's lap. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Going by her script, she was supposed to have been humiliated by one of the guests, so He Wenjiao couldn't watch anymore and had to help, and then he'd subsequently take off his outer robe and cover her threadbare, insufficient clothing, and then Bai Li Qingmao, seeing another woman wearing her sweetheart's clothes, would be so jealous. She couldn't think and have a fight right then and there with He Wenjiao, pushing He Wenjiao to Shu Yanyan's side. He Wenjiao would escort her home, and she would cry, and he would hold her to comfort her, and one thing would lead to another, and things would get out of hand. Men, right? Why did it end up like this? Bai Li Qingmao took out a medicinal pill. She carefully pried the dying Shu Yanyan's mouth open and gave it to her. Normal people couldn't take the strength of the spiritual pills cultivators used, so Bai Li Qingmao could only give her some medicine to strengthen her heart and internal organs. She would have to recover from her outer injuries and broken bones herself. After swallowing the pill, Shu Yanyan's deathly pale complexion improved, and she couldn't go on pretending to be unconscious. She despondently opened her eyes. Staying in character, she tearfully said to Bai Li Qingmao, "Thank you, Miss Bai Li." While falling, Shu Yanyan made sure to protect her face. only letting her forehead be struck so a drop of blood ran down it to maintain the image of an injured beauty. That, combined with her expression, tugged at people's heartstrings. Too bad currently her face was being seen by Bai Li Qingmao, and He Wenjiao was behind her. Bai Li Qingmao had grown up at Shanqing sect and was taught to oppose bullies and support the weak, even if she usually had a temper toward He Wenjiao and raised a fuss over him paying too much attention to Shu Yanyan. When it came to important matters, she could keep a level head, and she would never allow a frail woman to be hurt in front of her. With one arm around Shu Yanyan's waist, she leapt to the second story. After setting Shu Yanyan down on a chair, she glared at Wan Ranyi and Yin Hanzhang. Were you the ones who threw her off? Shu Yanyan didn't dare look at the Venerable and started pretending to cry. Wan Ranyi put down his cup and looked at Bai Li Qingmao. In the book, the first time Wan Ranyi met Bai Li Qingmao was after he'd encountered a problem in his cultivation. He'd run into the combined forces of the righteous sects, attacking the Shanwan sect leader under the leadership of Shanqing sect. He sustained serious injuries in reckless battle and collapsed in a river. Bai Li Qingmao, alone after being forced out by rival female characters, found him. She didn't recognize Wan Ranyi and thought he was a fellow cultivator, so carefully tended to him. Wan Ranyi, awakening, saw a ray of sunlight fall across Bai Li Qingmao's face. Her body seemed to be shrouded in divine light, a beautiful sight out of this world. His heart was captured in an instant, and from that moment on, he'd protect and cherish this kind-hearted girl in every way. Right now, without being injured and in an unsteady frame of mind, without the debt of his life being saved, when he met Bai Li Qingmao in an ordinary situation, he wanted to see what would happen. Bai Li Qingmao was furious, her long hair fluttering with her spiritual energy. Wan Ranyi examined her and found her body was shrouded in a faint layer of divine light. Huh. Wan Ranyi blinked, used his spiritual energy to see clearly, and still saw the light. When the book described Bai Li Qingmao from Wan Ranyi's perspective, it always used words like goddess and holy. He thought it was figurative, but turned out it wasn't just a description. She was actually surrounded by divine light. He glanced at Yin Hanzhang and Shu Yanyan out of the corner of his eyes, but they didn't seem to see any light. Wan Ranyi thought furiously, and suddenly realized he cultivated the path of slaughter. He set out on the path 300 years ago in the midst of war. What was Bai Li Qingmao's role in her past life? She'd been in charge of disasters, sending plague, war, and death to humankind. Bai Li Qingmao was currently 18 years old, which was to say her heavenly tribulation in the divine realm was 18 years ago. Thus, the war 300 years ago that led Wan Ranyi to enter the Tao had been caused by Bai Li Qingmao's past incarnation. Effectively, Bai Li Qingmao was the reason Wan Ranyi had awakened to the Tao, and could be considered half Wan Ranyi's master. If Bai Li Qingmao hadn't reincarnated, Wan Ranyi wouldn't have had to pay that karmic debt until he ascended to the divine realm, but she ended up reincarnating and meeting Wan Ranyi. Unknown to him, there was a debt of gratitude he had to pay to his teacher in order to pass his heavenly tribulations. So that was it. Okay, to explain all that, because it's a little hard to follow, she was a goddess of war, and he follows a path that makes you more spiritually powerful through war. He ascends to divine power through war. And because of that, there's a bond between them that is the reason why he became so obsessed with her in the book. It wasn't love, it was this bond of teacher and student where he's a warrior, she is war goddess, and he owes her for his divine power. And he's not going to be able to get any further in his training unless he pays back that debt. There's a lot of karma involved in this story where these karma links are going to make characters have to interact with one another and do certain things, or else things are going to go bad. And Wan Ranyi is trying to figure out why certain characters are linked and why things happen the way they do so he can manipulate them and stop certain things from happening. Specifically, Yin Hanzhang losing his damn mind. We'll stop there. I think we should read this one again sometime. I'm going to probably do a reading of something we've started already next time, since it's been a while since we've caught up on anything. I need to go back and look and write down where we are in each of our books that we're still reading. If you like the book reading, there's more of those on the book channel, link in the description. We've read all kinds of things. Tolkien, horror, lots of Danmei, all kinds of stuff. I want to get back to doing it because I have fun doing it. Books are my favorite thing, and I like reading. I think I'll probably do it later, like 5 plus, maybe, like evening bedtime readings or something for me. Right now it's 5 p.m. for me, so maybe we'll start doing them later in the evening. We'll see. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite books ever. I love it so much. It's so good. And we'll do more books at some point. I don't know what's tomorrow, Wednesday. I'm gonna try and stream a game. Maybe we'll see if I can finish a video. So far it's been easiest to do game streams over the weekends. So at the very least, I'll be back Friday with something there. Thanks again for watching. Check out the link in the description for social media and all that jazz, everything everywhere. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.